Abandoned temple's secret, a goddess rises, galaxy's fate hinges. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council stretched upward for hundreds of meters, its vaulted ceiling adorned with constellations mapping the known universe. Commander Ilara Reed stood alone on the central platform, a small figure dwarfed by the immensity of the hall. Tiered seating surrounded her in a perfect circle, filled with representatives from over 3,000 spacefaring civilizations. Some appeared almost human, others defied comprehension. Gaseous entities contained in specialized suits, crystalline beings that refracted light in hypnotic patterns, and massive tentacled creatures whose biology suggested evolution. In crushing oceanic depths, the gravity settings had been calibrated precisely to cause discomfort to human physiology. Just one of many subtle intimidation tactics employed by the Council. Ilara ignored the strain on her spine and kept her posture rigid, her Earth Diplomatic Corps uniform crisp, despite the 12-hour wait they had imposed before this hearing. The Council recognizes the human representative, announced High Arbiter Vox Nara, her translucent body pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that the translation software interpreted as formal disapproval. You stand accused of illegal archaeological interference on the protected world of Theros Prime, destruction of historical artifacts, and the unauthorized activation of ancient technology.
How do you plead?
The accusation echoed through the chamber, amplified by acoustic design to make even whispers carry to the furthest seats. Ilara noted the subtle shifts among the Zarathi delegation. The accusers whose mining operations had suspiciously expanded near the ruins before humans arrived. The Terran coalition pleads neither guilty nor innocent. High Arbiter, Ilara replied, her voice steady. We request the right to present evidence that will prove our expedition uncovered a deliberate attempt to conceal information vital to the security of all sentient life in this galaxy. Outraged hisses emerged from multiple delegations. A Duraxian representative rose, his scaled hide flushing crimson. The humans have been admitted to galactic society for barely 2 decades. They have no right to interfere with protected sites. And yet, Ilara countered, activating her wrist display. In those 20 years, we've discovered something you've all missed, or chosen to ignore, for millennia. A 3-dimensional star map materialized above the chamber floor. The projection zoomed to reveal the ruins on Theros Prime, then shifted to display similar architectural patterns on 17 other worlds spread across different sectors. As the projection rotated, the ruins aligned to form a vast network. What the humans found? Came a new voice from the shadows of the observer gallery. Is the truth you've all been running from. The chamber lights dimmed as a hooded figure emerged, casting aside their cloak to reveal Ambassador Thorne, Earth's senior diplomat. His cybernetic eye gleamed as he stepped forward to join Ilara. We didn't damage the ruins on Theros Prime, he continued. We awoke them, and now we have 14 days before the ancient defense system they control initiates a purge protocol that will sterilize half the inhabited worlds in this council. A stunned silence fell across the chamber as the projection shifted again, displaying a countdown timer that had already begun its inexorable march toward zero. Perhaps now, Ilara said into the silence, you'll be interested in what we found inside that abandoned temple. The council erupted into chaotic debate, with dozens of representatives shouting for attention. High Arbiter Vox Nara's bioluminescent patterns flashed rapidly as she attempted to restore order. Finally, she slammed her ceremonial staff against the floor, sending a sonic wave through the chamber that silenced the uproar. Explain yourself, human, she demanded. What evidence supports these outrageous claims? Thorne nodded to Ilara, who expanded her holographic display. Footage began playing, recording from the helmet cameras of the Earth archaeological team as they explored the ruins on Theros Prime. The footage showed Dr. Marcus Vale, Earth's leading xenoarchaeologist, carefully removing layers of artificially placed debris that had been disguised as natural cave-ins. Behind them lay a sealed entrance marked with warning symbols. These symbols match no known language in the galactic archives, Ilara explained, but they appear on all 18 sites we've identified. Our team determined they were not warnings to stay away, but instructions for activation in case of emergency. The footage continued, showing the team breaking the seal and entering a vast chamber filled with technology unlike anything seen in current galactic civilization. At the center stood a crystalline structure that began to pulse with light as the humans approached. The system recognized our presence and initiated communication, Thorne explained, but not in any language we expected. On screen, the crystal projected a humanoid figure composed entirely of light. It spoke, its voice melodic but incomprehensible. After 3 days of continuous analysis, Ilara continued, our linguistics team made a breakthrough. The hologram shifted to show translation algorithms processing the message patterns. Words began to form, Guardian Protocol activated, designated, area, continuity breach detected, initiating assessment phase, purge protocol standby. The entity identified itself as an artificial intelligence called Area, created by a civilization that the Council archives contain no record of, Thorne said, or rather records that have been deliberately erased. Elder Kaztak of the Archivist Guild rose slowly on his hovering platform. His ancient body, supported by mechanical exoskeletons, trembled as he spoke. The humans speak of the Luminari. This knowledge was sealed by unanimous council vote 8 million years ago. A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the chamber. Many of the younger representatives appeared confused, while the elder members of long-lived species exchanged knowing glances. The Luminari, Thorne continued, were a post-biological civilization that achieved technological singularity millions of years before any current council species achieved spaceflight. They established a peaceful hegemony across this galactic sector until they suddenly vanished. What we found suggests they didn't disappear. They were systematically eliminated. Ilara activated a new projection showing the excavation team discovering a sealed, underground chamber containing thousands of preserved data crystals. The temple on Theros Prime wasn't a place of worship. It was a fail-safe facility designed to restart if the Luminary civilization fell. And by entering it, hissed Counselor Drath of the Zerathi Combine, you triggered ancient weapon systems that now threaten us all. No, Ilara countered firmly. The system was already awakening. The mining operations your corporation authorized near the site were activating the dormant energy grid. We merely accelerated a process already in motion. But in doing so, we gained access to the shutdown protocols. The holographic display showed energy signatures pulsing between the 18 identified temple sites across the galaxy, growing stronger with each cycle. The Area system believes the Luminari were exterminated by a coalition of species, Thorne explained. It was programmed to awaken after a specified dormancy period, to assess whether the responsible civilization still existed, and if so, to eliminate them. Based on genetic markers identified in 12 council species, including the Zerathi, the system has designated your worlds as primary targets. And why should we trust humans to help us? Demanded a representative from the Palladian Conclave. Your species has no stake in this ancient conflict. Dr. Vale's voice emerged from the recording as the hologram showed the final chamber his team discovered. A vast hall containing millions of suspended animation pods, each holding a preserved Luminari. Because we found survivors, Ilara said quietly, and one of them is awake. The chamber doors slid open and a tall, luminescent figure entered, escorted by Earth security forces. The assembled council representatives recoiled in shock, and fear as the last living goddess of a civilization they thought extinct stepped forward to address her would-be executioners. She stood nearly 8 feet tall, her skin shifting between translucent and opaque with each measured breath. Intricate patterns of light pulsed beneath her surface. Her eyes, 3 of them arranged in a triangular pattern across her elongated face, scanned the chamber with ancient intelligence. I am Lyra Vex. Her voice resonated directly in the minds of all present, bypassing translation systems entirely. Last custodian of the Luminary Continuity Protocol. Your ancestors named my kind gods. Your historians erased our existence. Your corporations mine our graves for profit. The council chamber fell completely silent, terror and awe spreading through the assembled representatives as they faced a being from a civilization they had tried to erase from history, brought back into their presence by the newest, least powerful species in galactic society. Humanity had just changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Abandoned temple secret. A goddess rises, galaxy's fate hinges. I am Lyra Vex, last custodian of the Luminary Continuity Protocol. The words resonated in the minds of every being in the council chamber, causing several representatives to clutch their heads in discomfort. The luminescent figure stood placidly beside Alara Reed, her three-eyed gaze sweeping across the assembly with ancient patience. Council security forces activated defensive shields around the central platform, but the luminary made no aggressive moves. Instead, she extended her hand and a star map materialized above her palm, showing the galaxy as it existed 8 million years ago. The luminary achieved what you call post-biological evolution, Ambassador Thorne explained, his cybernetic eyes scanning the reactions of the council members. They transcended physical limitations while maintaining corporeal forms. They shared their knowledge freely, uplifting primitive species across 20% of the galaxy. Until the purge, Lyra Vex continued, her mental voice carrying an undercurrent of carefully controlled rage. A coalition of species feared our advancement. They believed our evolution would eventually leave them behind or subjugate them. They created a bioweapon specifically keyed to luminary physiology, a weapon your Zarathi archaeologists rediscovered 3 centuries ago in their excavations of Sector 9G. Counselor Drath rose in objection, his scaled skin flushing deep crimson. These are baseless accusations. The Zarathi Combine has no knowledge of such weapons. Elder Kuztak of the Archivists Guild interrupted, his ancient voice cracking with the weight of forbidden knowledge. The luminary speaks truth. The historical concordance of the 27th era contains redacted references to a species matching their description. Our ancestors participated in their elimination. A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the chamber. Many of the younger species representatives appeared genuinely confused, while elders from the oldest council races exchanged knowing glances. The fail-safe temples were created as our final resort, Lyra Vex explained. If our civilization fell, they would remain dormant for 8 million years. Time enough for guilty species to either evolve beyond recognition or expire naturally. Upon reactivation, the area system would analyze genetic markers of dominant species. Finding 12 marker matches in current council species has triggered the Purge Protocol. Commander Ilara stepped forward. The human excavation team found Lyra Vex in suspended animation, designated as the final authority to verify or override the Purge Protocol. She has agreed to help us deactivate the system, but there's a problem. The holographic display shifted to show the 18 temple sites across the galaxy. At each location, energy signatures pulsed with increasing intensity. The system requires simultaneous deactivation at all 18 sites, Thorne explained. Each temple contains a command node that must be reset using specific access codes. We have 14 days before the weapons platforms achieve full power. And you expect us to trust this, Revenant? Demanded the Doraxian representative, his tusked face contorted in suspicion. A being from a dead civilization with every reason to seek vengeance? I do not desire vengeance, Lyra Vex responded, her inner light dimming slightly. I desire justice. The humans have offered a compromise that serves both. Ilara activated a new holographic display showing legal documents bearing Earth government seals. We propose the establishment of a protected zone encompassing the former Luminari territories. The surviving Luminari in stasis will be revived gradually under observation. In exchange, Lyra Vex will provide the shutdown protocols and technological insights that could advance all Council species by centuries. And if we refuse? Asked High Arbiter Voxnara, her translucent tentacles writhing with agitation. Then approximately 40% of all sentient life in this galactic arm will perish, Lyra Vex stated simply. The area system cannot be defeated by conventional weapons. It was designed to withstand attacks from civilizations far more advanced than yours. The council chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity, the newcomers to galactic society, had maneuvered themselves into a position of unprecedented diplomatic leverage. There is something else you should know, Lyra Vex added, her gaze sweeping across the assembled representatives. The human genetic structure contains markers indicating partial luminary heritage. They are not our direct descendants, but their evolutionary path was guided. They are the contingency we left behind, designed to develop in isolation until needed. Ilara and Thorne exchanged shocked glances. This revelation wasn't part of their briefing. The council representatives murmured in alarm as they realized the humans weren't simply messengers or mediators. High Arbiter Voxnara slammed her staff against the floor again, restoring order. The council will recess to discuss these developments. Secure quarters will be prepared for the luminary entity. The human delegation will remain on station. As the council members filed out, many casting fearful glances at Lyra Vex, Ilara turned to the ancient being. You didn't tell us about the genetic connection. There are many things I have not yet shared, Lyra Vex replied, her mental voice now directed solely at Ilara. Some truths must be revealed gradually, or they become weapons in themselves. In their assigned quarters, Ilara, Thorn, and Dr. Vale gathered to assess their situation. The walls were undoubtedly monitored, but they spoke freely, a calculated decision to appear transparent. The genetic claim changes everything, Dr. Vale said, running his hands through his disheveled hair. No wonder our team could activate the temple systems when other species couldn't. It's a political bombshell, Thorn agreed, his cybernetic eye dimming as he entered power conservation mode. Some council members will see it as confirmation of their worst fears, that humans are a luminary weapon designed to infiltrate galactic society. Ilara paced the room, her mind racing. Whether it's true or not, we need to focus on the immediate threat. The temples must be deactivated. A soft chime announced an incoming communication. The wall screen activated, showing High Arbiter Vox Nara. Commander Reed, the Council has reached a preliminary decision. We will authorize joint expeditions to the 18 temple sites. Each team will include human specialists, Council security forces, and technical experts from affected species. And Lyra Vex? Ilara asked. She will accompany the team to the primary temple on Nexus 7. The Council insists on maintaining custody of her until the crisis is resolved. After the communication ended, Thorn turned to Ilara. They're hedging their bets. If we succeed, they claim cooperation. If we fail, they'll say humans and their luminary ally caused the catastrophe. It doesn't matter, Ilara replied. We need their resources and local knowledge to reach all 18 sites in time. 3 days later, 18 synchronized expeditions prepared for deployment. Each group was assigned a specialized vessel capable of reaching their designated temple within the narrowing time window. The Council had reluctantly provided star charts showing the most efficient routes, many utilizing ancient hyperspace corridors not found in standard navigation databases. On the primary launch deck, Ilara inspected her team. Dr. Vale would provide archaeological expertise. Lyra Vex, flanked by Council guards, would interface with the temple systems. And a late addition, a Zarathi scientist named Kraz, would represent Council interests. Commander Reed, Kraz greeted her, his scaled hide a muted bronze in the harsh dock lighting. My people have a particular interest in ensuring this mission succeeds. Given that Zarathi mining operations triggered the temple activation, I should hope so, Ilara replied coolly. That accusation remains unproven, Kraz countered, but irrelevant to our current task. My family archives contain information about luminary technology that may prove useful. Your family archives? Dr. Vale asked, suddenly interested. I thought all luminary records were purged from Council databases. Official records, yes, Kraz admitted. But my lineage had direct involvement in the events of that era. Some knowledge was preserved privately. Before they could question him further, alarms sounded throughout the station. Ambassador Thorn rushed onto the launch deck, his expression grave. The energy buildup is accelerating, he announced. We've lost 3 days from our timeline. All teams need to depart immediately. As the expedition teams boarded their vessels, High Arbiter Vox Nara addressed them via the communication system. The survival of galactic civilization depends on your success. The Council has existed for 12 million years. We will not allow an ancient vengeance protocol to end that legacy. Aboard their ship, designated Pathfinder 1, Ilara took the command chair as the docking clamps released. The vessel's engines hummed to life, propelling them away from the station into the void. Setting course for Nexus 7, the navigation officer announced. Estimated travel time, 36 hours at maximum hyperspace velocity. As the stars blurred around them, Dr. Vale approached Lyra Vex, who stood motionless by the view screen. I have so many questions about your civilization, he began. Your technology, your history. If we succeed, there will be time for knowledge transfer, she responded. If we fail, none of it will matter. In the ship's conference room, Kraz unfolded a leather-bound case containing what appeared to be ancient. Abandoned temple's secret, a goddess rises, galaxy's fate hinges. Pathfinder 1 emerged from hyperspace with a flash of displaced energy, the small vessel shuddering as it transitioned to normal space. Through the forward viewport, Nexus 7 appeared as a desolate moon, its gray surface scarred by ancient impact craters. It orbited a neutron star whose pulsating radiation bathed the system in deadly energy, a natural defense that had protected the primary temple for millions of years. Radiation, shields at maximum, reported the pilot, a nervous young ensign named Reeves. We have 48 hours before exposure becomes critical. Commander Ilara Reed studied the tactical display as Dr. Vale pointed out their landing zone, a vast plateau near the moon's equator, where scans indicated a massive structure partially embedded in the surface. The temple extends at least 6 kilometers below the surface, Dr. Vale explained, excitement evident in his voice despite the danger. It's the largest of the 18 sites by far. Lyra Vex stood beside them, her luminescent form pulsing with subtle patterns that seemed to match the neutron star's rhythm.
This was the seat of the Luminari High Council, she explained.
The last bastion to fall during the purge. Its defenses will be significant. Kraz, the Zerathi scientist, examined his family's ancient scrolls with increasing concern. These schematics indicate multiple automated defense systems, including gravitic disruptors capable of tearing apart molecular bonds. Can you bypass them? Ilara asked Lyra Vex. The systems will recognize my biological signature, but after 8 million years of dormancy, they will be suspicious of potential coercion. We must proceed carefully. As Pathfinder 1 began its descent toward the landing zone, Ilara received a transmission from Council headquarters. Ambassador Thorne's grim face appeared on the communication screen. Status report from Team 7, he announced. They've encountered automated defenses on Cygni 4, taking heavy fire. The transmission showed grainy footage of another expedition team retreating from a barrage of energy weapons, firing from within a temple structure. Their shuttle was heavily damaged, trailing debris as it escaped into orbit. Tell them to hold position, Ilara ordered. We need all 18 deactivations to occur simultaneously, or the system will interpret it as an attack. There's more, Thorne continued. The energy buildup in the temple network is accelerating faster than predicted. We're down to 7 days, not 11. After the transmission ended, Ilara assembled her team for a final briefing. The margin for error has just disappeared. Once we enter the temple, we'll have limited communication with the other teams. Our primary objective is to reach the central control chamber and prepare for synchronized deactivation. Pathfinder 1 landed with a soft thud on the dusty surface of Nexus 7. Through their viewports, they could see the massive temple entrance, a towering archway carved from black stone, its surface etched with intricate symbols that glowed with faint blue light. The team donned protective suits, not just against the radiation, but against whatever ancient defenses might activate upon their approach. Lyra Vex required no protection, her body naturally resistant to conditions that would kill humans instantly. The entrance sequence requires a specific approach, she instructed as they prepared to disembark. Follow exactly in my footsteps. Any deviation will trigger the defensive grid. They exited the ship in single file, Lyra Vex leading the way. The reduced gravity made their movements awkward, but they carefully matched her deliberate pace. As they approached the towering entrance, the glowing symbols pulsed brighter, scanning their biological signatures. Lyra Vex raised her hands and spoke in a melodic language that seemed to ripple the very air around them. The massive doors, which had remained sealed for 8 million years, began to part with a deep, resonating groan. It recognizes me, she said. But the security protocols remain active. Stay close. They entered a vast antechamber whose ceiling rose hundreds of meters above them. The walls were lined with crystalline structures that illuminated as they detected movement, bathing the space in soft blue light. Ancient machinery hummed to life around them, scanning their biological signatures. The primary control chamber is deep within the complex, Lyra Vex indicated. But first we must pass through the Hall of Records. They followed a sloping corridor that descended into the moon's crust. The architecture became increasingly complex. Gravity shifted in unexpected ways. Passages seemed to fold into themselves, creating spatial distortions that disoriented the human members of the team. Dimensional engineering, Dr. Vale murmured in awe. The interior space exceeds the physical boundaries of the structure. A simple application of hyperspatial mathematics, Lyra Vex commented. Child's technology by Luminari standards. They emerged into a vast circular space with a domed ceiling, displaying a star map of the galaxy as it existed during the Luminary era. The walls were lined with crystalline data storage units, each containing millennia of knowledge. Dr. Vale approached one of the units reverently. The accumulated scientific knowledge of an entire civilization. It's beyond priceless. Focus, Doctor, Ilara reminded him. We're here to prevent genocide, not conduct research. Kraz studied the central pedestal with growing agitation. These markings match fragments found in our archives, texts my ancestors tried to destroy. They speak of the judgment of light, a poetic name for mass extinction, Lyra Vex commented dryly. My people were not without their flaws. Our belief in our own benevolence led us to create safeguards that, in retrospect, were disproportionate. A sudden tremor shook the chamber, dust falling from the ancient ceiling. Throughout the galaxy, the other 17 temples simultaneously activated higher defense protocols as the area system detected their presence. On Council headquarters, alarms blared as communication was lost with 3 more expedition teams. The system is accelerating, Thorne shouted to his staff. We're down to 5 days now, not 7. On Nexus 7, Ilara's team pushed forward with increased urgency. They passed through a series of security checkpoints, each requiring Lyra Vex to interface directly with the ancient systems. At each interaction, her luminescent form dimmed slightly. The security protocols are draining her, Dr. Vale observed with concern. Each authentication is drawing on her biological energy. I can sustain the necessary functions, Lyra Vex assured them, though her voice had weakened noticeably. They finally reached a massive circular door made of an unknown black metal that absorbed light rather than reflected it. No visible mechanism indicated how it might open. The final barrier, Lyra Vex explained. Beyond lies the central control chamber, the nexus core that connects all 18 temples. How do we proceed? Ilara asked. The door requires a sacrifice, Kraz interrupted, consulting his family's scrolls. A genetic offering from a luminari, Lyra Vex nodded. A sample of living tissue freely given. She pressed her hand against the black surface. The material seemed to liquefy around her fingers, drawing a small amount of her luminescent essence into itself. The door began to recede, revealing a spherical chamber suspended in a massive cavern, accessible only by a narrow bridge over an abyss. At the center floated a pulsing crystalline structure, a swirling nexus of energy that cast prismatic light throughout the space. The nexus core, Lyra Vex explained. It connects to all 18 temples. If we can override the primary protocols here, the other teams will face reduced resistance. Dr. Vale scanned the core with his equipment. Incredible. It's generating energy equivalent to a small star, yet perfectly contained. Because it is a star, Kraz realized, checking his readings, a compressed stellar fragment held in quantum stasis. As they crossed the narrow bridge toward the core, holographic interfaces activated, displaying streams of Luminari script. Lyra Vex began the deactivation sequence, her hands moving through the holographic displays with practiced precision. Something's wrong, she said suddenly, her inner light pulsing erratically. The system is rejecting my authorization. It believes I'm compromised. Can you override it? Ilara asked urgently. Not without the prime key, a genetic signature from a Luminari High Council member. But you were the custodian, Dr. Vale protested. A custodian lacks override authority precisely to prevent coercion scenarios like this one, Lyra Vex explained. The system was designed with multiple redundancies. Kraz stepped forward unexpectedly. There may be another way. He removed a small container from his equipment pack. Inside rested a fossilized tissue sample. My family has guarded this for 27 generations. It was taken from a luminari during the final days of the Purge, a high counselor according to our records. Lyra Vex examined the sample, her 3 eyes widening. This is Helios Nar, first voice of the conclave. How did your family obtain this? My ancestor served as executioner, Kraz admitted quietly. He kept this as a trophy. Our family's shame has become our redemption. The Zerathi placed the sample on the scanning platform. The system analyzed it, then projected a new holographic interface. It worked, Lyra Vex breathed. We now have 6 hours to synchronize with the other teams for simultaneous deactivation. Across the galaxy, the remaining teams position themselves at their respective temples, preparing for the abandoned temple's secret. A goddess rises, galaxy's fate hinges. Pathfinder 1 tore through hyperspace, pushing its engines beyond safety parameters. The journey from Nexus 7 to Earth would normally take 5 days. They needed to make it in 3. Commander Alara Reed sat in the command chair, reviewing tactical options as Dr. Vale monitored Lyra Vex's condition. The luminary had expended enormous energy deactivating the temple network, and now sat motionless in the ship's medical bay. Her luminescence dimmed to a faint glow. Her biological systems are regenerating, but slowly, Dr. Vale reported. Whatever she did during the shutdown sequence drained her significantly. Will she recover in time? Ilara asked. Unknown. Luminary physiology isn't exactly covered in medical school. Kraz entered the bridge, his scaled hide pale with exhaustion. I've analyzed the data we extracted from the Nexus core. The sanctuary worlds Lyra Vex mentioned, they're real. My ancestors' records contained fragments of information about these hidden systems, but nothing concrete. Why would your family preserve this information if they participated in the purge? Ilara asked. Not all Zerathi supported the extinction campaign, Kraz replied. My lineage maintained these records as atonement, a recognition that destroying an entire civilization was perhaps the greatest crime in galactic history. The communications officer interrupted. Incoming transmission from Council Headquarters, Priority Alpha. Ambassador Thorne's face appeared on screen, his expression grave. Commander, the situation has deteriorated. Our intelligence indicates the attack force at the Antarctic facility includes operatives from 6 different Council species. They've penetrated to the 2nd containment level. Earth Defense Forces? Engaging but outmatched technologically. The attackers are using weapons we've never seen before. We're still 48 hours out, Alara said. Can the facility hold? Unknown. There's something else. The Council has convened an emergency session. Several delegations are formally accusing Earth of violating sovereignty by harboring Luminari survivors without disclosure. They're calling for sanctions. Political cover for the attack, Ilara concluded. Keep me updated. After the transmission ended, Ilara went to the medical bay where Lyra Vex lay motionless on an examination table. Medical scanners struggled to interpret her exotic biology, displaying conflicting readings. Can you hear me? Ilara asked. Lyra Vex's 3 eyes opened slowly, their glow weak but steady. Yes, Commander. I am recovering. The preservation facility on Earth is under attack. We won't reach it in time. It does not matter, Lyra Vex replied, her mental voice barely a whisper. The attackers cannot harm what they cannot comprehend. What do you mean? The preservation chambers your team discovered are merely the outer shell of a much more sophisticated system. The luminary and stasis are not physically present in the manner you understand. Their consciousness patterns and biological templates are stored in quantum matrices beneath the Antarctic ice, unreachable by conventional means. Ilara processed this information with growing concern. So the attack is pointless? Not entirely. While they cannot destroy what they seek, they can still trigger defensive protocols that would be unfortunate for your planet. 24 hours later, Pathfinder 1 emerged from hyperspace in Earth's solar system. Immediate sensor readings detected multiple vessels in orbit, Council warships maintaining position just outside Earth defense perimeters. Blockade formation, Ilara observed. They're preventing reinforcements from reaching the Antarctic. Incoming transmission from Earth Defense Command, the communications officer announced. General Hammond's face appeared on screen, helmet visor cracked, background showing emergency lighting. Commander Reed, the situation is critical. The attackers have reached the central chamber, but something unexpected has occurred. The preservation facility has activated itself. The transmission showed footage from security cameras inside the Antarctic complex. The attacking forces, a mixture of Zerathi commandos, Duraxian shock troops, and other species, had breached the massive door to the central stasis chamber. But instead of finding vulnerable preservation pods, they encountered a shifting dimensional anomaly that seemed to absorb their weapons fire. As they watched, the anomaly expanded suddenly, engulfing several attackers. When it receded, they were simply gone, not destroyed but removed from normal space. Defense systems, Lyra Vex explained, now able to stand though still weakened. The facility exists partially in hyperspace, a security measure against exactly this scenario. We're receiving thousands of reports worldwide, Hammond continued. Ancient structures previously undetected are activating beneath every major continent. Energy signatures unlike anything we've ever recorded. Lyra Vex nodded. The Earth Nexus is awakening. Your planet was never just a colony world or evolutionary experiment. It was the primary backup for our entire civilization. Ilara turned to her. You knew this all along, I suspected. Confirmation came only when the temple network was deactivated. The shutdown sequence included a verification protocol that reached across space to the Earth Nexus. Can you control these activations? They're causing widespread panic, not from here. I must reach the Antarctic facility directly. Pathfinder 1 descended through Earth's atmosphere, evading the Council blockade by using a stealth system reverse-engineered from captured Palladian technology. As they approached the Antarctic continent, they observed massive energy discharges erupting from beneath the ice, brilliant columns of light reaching into the upper atmosphere. The defense grid is fully active, Lyra Vex observed. We must hurry. They landed 2 kilometers from the facility entrance, now surrounded by the wreckage of attack vessels and Earth defense craft alike. The temperature hovered at 40 degrees below zero, the air crystallizing with each breath as they disembarked. Life signs? Ilara asked as they trudged through the snow toward the facility. Multiple, Dr. Vale confirmed, checking his scanner. Both attackers and defenders, though significantly reduced in number. They reached the massive entrance, now partially collapsed from explosive damage. Inside, emergency lighting cast red shadows across scenes of combat. Scorch marks from energy weapons. Bodies from both sides. This way, Lyra Vex indicated, seemingly drawn toward the facility's center. They followed her through increasingly undamaged sections until they reached a massive circular door, similar to the one at Nexus 7. Unlike the temple, however, this door stood open, revealing a vast chamber beyond. Inside, surviving attackers and Earth defense personnel maintained an uneasy standoff, separated by a pulsating energy field that bisected the room. At the chamber's center floated a crystalline structure identical to the Nexus core they had encountered on Nexus 7. Hold your fire, Ilara commanded, her authority causing both sides to hesitate. Lyra Vex walked directly toward the energy field, which parted before her like water. She approached the floating crystal, which brightened at her proximity. I am Lyra Vex, last custodian of the Luminary Continuity Protocol, she announced, her voice stronger than it had been since the temple shutdown. I verify the awakening sequence. The crystal pulsed brilliantly, then projected a holographic interface similar to the one in the temple. Lyra Vex's hands moved through the projection with practiced precision, entering complex commands. What is she doing? Asked the leader of the Earth Defense Forces, a colonel whose uniform was scorched from battle. Preventing a catastrophe, Ilara replied. Or causing one. We're about to find out. The crystalline core began to rotate faster, its light intensifying until it was painful to look at directly. The chamber floor suddenly became transparent, revealing a vast complex extending kilometers below, row upon row of preservation units, thousands upon thousands, each containing a suspended luminary. The true preservation facility, Dr. Vale whispered in awe, hidden in a pocket dimension beneath the ice. Not just luminari, Kraz observed, pointing to different sections. Those units contain preserved specimens from hundreds of species, many extinct for millions of years. A galactic arc, Ilara realized. Insurance against extinction. Lyra Vex completed her interaction with the crystal, which stabilized into a steady, pulsating rhythm. The energy discharges visible outside ceased, and the facility's system settled into a low-power state. It is done, she announced. The emergency protocols have been reset. The defense systems will stand down. And the Luminari in stasis? Ilara asked. They will remain dormant until proper revival protocols can be established. A gradual awakening, as agreed. The leader of the attacking forces, a Zarathi commander, stepped forward cautiously. My orders were to eliminate all Luminari presence on this planet. Your orders were based on fear, Lyra Vex replied. Fear of a reckoning that need not come. The Council will not simply accept the return of the Luminari, he warned. Many believe your kind too dangerous to exist. Yet here we stand, Ilara interjected. In a facility your forces failed to destroy, surrounded by technology you cannot understand. Perhaps it's time for a different approach. Her communicator activated with an incoming message from Ambassador Thorne. Commander, the Council is demanding an update. The energy signatures from Earth were detected all the way to the galactic core. Every major power is on high alert. Abandoned temple secret, a goddess rises, galaxy's fate hinges. And what role will humans play in this new arrangement? High Arbiter Voxnara's question hung in the council chamber, the transparent appendages of her species rippling with barely contained agitation. Lyra Vex and Ilara exchanged a glance before the luminary answered. The genetic analysis is conclusive. Humans were indeed part of a contingency protocol established by my people. Not direct descendants, but a guided evolutionary path. They possess certain neurological structures that make them uniquely compatible with luminary consciousness frameworks. Meaning what exactly? Demanded Counselor Drath of the Zerathi, his scales flushed with the deep crimson of suspicion. Meaning, Ambassador Thorne interjected, that humans can serve as interfaces between luminary technology and other species. We are in essence biological translators. But there is something else, Lyra Vex continued. Something we discovered during the temple deactivation that changes everything. She turned to Ilara. Commander Reed, would you explain what happened on Nexus 7 after the primary shutdown? Ilara stepped forward, visibly uncomfortable with the attention. After we completed the synchronized deactivation, the temple's central core reconfigured itself. It connected with me somehow. I experienced a download of information directly into my consciousness, what the Luminary call an ascension template. She raised her hand, and to the shock of the council, her skin briefly shimmered with the same luminescent patterns that characterized Lyra Vex's biology. The Aria system wasn't just a weapon, Ilara explained. It was a preservation mechanism with multiple contingencies. The temples weren't just meant to destroy. They were designed to recognize and elevate compatible species when the time was right. Humans, Lyra Vex continued, are entering an evolutionary threshold that my people reached 8 million years ago. The template Commander Reed received will accelerate this process, but it requires a choice. Each human must individually decide whether to accept the transformation. Stunned silence fell across the chamber as the implications became clear. Humanity, barely accepted into galactic society, now stood at the cusp of an evolutionary leap that took other species millions of years to achieve. We do not seek to rule, Thorne assured the council. Recognizing their fear, we seek partnership. The galaxy faces threats that none of us can confront alone. The temporal anomalies at the galactic core are expanding. The void entities detected beyond the Sagittarius arm are growing more numerous. We need unity, not division. High Arbiter Voxnara conferred quietly with her advisors before addressing the chamber. The council will require time to consider these developments. However, the evidence of impending extragalactic threats is compelling. Perhaps our ancestors erred in eliminating potential allies against such dangers. As the council deliberated, Ilara and Lyra Vex stepped aside for a private conversation. You didn't tell them everything, Ilara said quietly, about what the ascension really means. They aren't ready for that truth, Lyra Vex replied. The knowledge that consciousness can transcend biological limitations, that what you call death is merely a transition, would destabilize too many religious and social structures simultaneously. And the void entities, they're not just invaders, are they? They're running from something. Lyra Vex's inner light dimmed slightly. Now you understand why we created the temples, why we guided human evolution, why we needed you to wake us. What comes from beyond the galactic barrier would consume all sentient life indiscriminately. The Luminary faced it once before and barely survived. This time, we will need humanity's unique adaptability to face what comes. The council reconvened after 3 days of intense deliberation. The chamber was now filled to capacity, with representatives from even the most distant sectors present either physically or via holographic projection. The fate of not just the Luminary, but potentially all galactic civilization, hung in the balance. High Arbiter Voxnara called the session to order. After extensive consultation with our respective governments and detailed analysis of the evidence presented, the Council has reached a provisional decision regarding the Luminary Integration Treaty. The chamber fell silent as she continued. The treaty will be ratified with certain modifications. The luminary revival will proceed under observation by a joint committee including representatives from all major council species. Technological exchanges will be gradual and monitored. Truth and reconciliation processes will be established to address historical events without destabilizing current political structures. Ambassador Thorne stepped forward. And Earth's status? Earth will be recognized as a protected sovereign world with special diplomatic status. Humans will serve as designated intermediaries between the Luminary and the Council. Additionally, the ascension process described by Commander Reed will be classified as a voluntary evolutionary path, not to be interfered with by any Council species. Murmurs of both approval and concern spread through the chamber. Many representatives clearly remained uneasy about humanity's new position, but the pragmatic reality of the situation left few alternatives. There is one additional matter, Vox Nara added. The Council formally censures the species involved in the unauthorized attack on the Earth Preservation Facility. Reparations will be required and the corporate entities responsible will face dissolution. Councillor Drath rose in objection, but found little support even among his own delegation. The evidence was too damning, the political cost of defending the attackers too high. The first phase of luminary revival will begin immediately, Lyravex announced. 1,000 individuals carefully selected for their scientific and diplomatic expertise, awakened gradually over the next standard year. Where will they reside? Asked a representative from the Palladian Conclave. The first sanctuary world has already been prepared, Lyravex replied, activating a holographic display showing a lush, Earth-like planet orbiting a stable yellow star. Designated New Lumina, it will serve as our primary settlement and diplomatic center. The council session concluded with the formal signing of the treaty, the most significant interspecies agreement in 12 million years of galactic history. As the representatives filed out, many approached the human delegation with newfound respect, though often tinged with wariness. 1 month later, Ilara stood on an observation platform overlooking the Antarctic Preservation Facility, now transformed into a revival center. Below, the first 50 luminari had been successfully awakened, their luminescent forms moving gracefully through the complex as they adjusted to their renewed existence. Dr. Vale joined her, his excitement barely contained. Their knowledge is extraordinary, he reported. Just this morning, one of their medical specialists showed me a technique for neural regeneration that could eliminate degenerative brain diseases entirely. And the ascension template? Ilara asked. 300 humans have volunteered for the first phase. The process takes approximately 1 standard month to complete. The changes are remarkable. A soft light announced Lyravex's approach. The luminary custodian's form had strengthened considerably since her awakening, her luminescence now bright enough to cast shadows. The Council Oversight Committee arrives tomorrow, she informed them. They will observe the revival process and the initial technology transfers. Are you concerned? Ilara asked, cautious, not concerned. Trust must be rebuilt gradually. 8 million years of fear and guilt cannot be erased by a single treaty. Ambassador Thorne joined them, his cybernetic eye glinting in the Antarctic sunlight. Reports from the sanctuary worlds are promising. The dormant infrastructure is reactivating exactly as predicted. Within 5 years, all 37 will be operational. And the void entities? Ilara asked. Their incursions along the Sagittarius Arm have increased by 17%. Thorne replied grimly. The Council has finally authorized a joint defense initiative using adapted luminary technology. It will not be enough, Lyravex said quietly. Not against what follows behind them. Ilara's communicator chimed with an incoming message from Earth Defense Command. Commander Reed, we're detecting anomalous energy signatures at the edge of the solar system. Configuration matches nothing in our database. Lyravex accessed the data through her direct link to Earth's sensor network. Not void entities, she confirmed. Something else. Something older. Thorne checked his own communicator. Council headquarters is reporting similar signatures across 17 sectors simultaneously. Whatever it is, it's not isolated to our region. The Harbingers, Lyravex whispered, her 3 eyes widening. They always come first? Harbingers of what? Ilara asked, though she already suspected the answer. Of the reason my people created the temples, guided human evolution, and preserved our civilization against extinction. Of why we feared to face it alone. Ilara's skin began to shimmer with faint luminescence, the ascension template activating in response to her heightened emotional state. Tell me. We called it the Devourer of Light, Lyravex replied. A cosmic entity that consumes consciousness itself. The void entities flee before it like insects before a wildfire. How do we fight something like that? Thorn asked. Not with weapons or shields, Lyravex explained. With consciousness itself, evolved, united, and